Hello, Trailblazers. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here to be talking about trauma. Ooh, so exciting. It really is actually. Maybe that title scared people off. I'm not sure, but let's just clear the elephant in the room that we all carry generational trauma, okay? Let's just claim it. Let's just identify it. The sooner we can do that, the sooner we can just like acknowledge and accept it, the quicker we are able to utilize it and to release what no longer serves us and to be able to celebrate what our ancestors actually gave us. So, that is our goal for today is to just call the elephant out like, yep, we're talking about trauma. I know. We're talking about generational trauma. But also, right, like when we can identify that and release the generational trauma, we can identify the generational gifts. And that is so important to be able to like up level our energy and up level and upgrade our belief systems and to actually start creating a different reality, one that we are not holding on to any of the suffering. We are actually living in sovereignty. We are living from our authentic self. We are living in our truth, which is no longer what it was, right? That was not ours to begin with. So I'm super excited to be able to talk about this today, about how to transform generational trauma into a legacy of leadership. Because I know that is what you are all here for. You are here to make an impact, to lead in some form or fashion, to make an impact in other people's lives, to show them that there is something worth living for, that they are worth living for, all of the things, right? This is what we're here to do. So, I cannot see my chat, just FYI. And I wonder if I can try again. Because I love to engage with you guys. I love seeing who's popping on. We are seeing what's happening. All right. Anybody else's mind ever like go to song to speak? And I always, it's like, hey, what's going on? Okay, I know that you guys didn't come here to listen to me sing. So there we go. All right, so now that I'm up and running, and hopefully I'll be able to see, well, maybe not, it just froze on me. So maybe I'll be able to see some comments. We will see. Regardless, super happy that you're here. Pop a hi in the comments or your favorite emoji or your favorite GIF or whatever it is that you, is it GIF? GIF? GIF. It's GIF. That you want to use to let us know that you're here so that we can celebrate you. We can celebrate that you're here. Yeah, this isn't working. I'm just going to turn it off. So that we can celebrate that you're here and to let us know so we can support you. We love to support all of you trailblazers. So the intention for today is to really allow the space to transform some of those generational patterns, the lineage patterns, the patterns that no longer serve us, to create more safety, to create more truth in your life. And who wants to live from more safety and more truth, right? Put a yes in the comments if you're here for that. So today, diving into how to transform this, how to shine a light on this generational trauma and transform it into legacy of leadership, and why it's time for that. Hello, guys. I don't know if you've looked around lately, but it's sort of a shit show out there. And guess what? I mean, I know that I've said this before, and I'll keep on saying it. Is that like it's time for the women to rise? It's time. That's why this is called Women on the Rise. It is time for us to step into our bigness, to step into our purpose, to step into the legacy that we are meant to create. So let's dive in so that we do not get drugged down or suffocated by our familial patterns, by that generational trauma that we all have. And for those of you, like if you want to learn more about just like the weight of trauma, Body Keeps the Score is a great one. That's what got me into the somatic work, truly. As a psychotherapist, of just like, oh my gosh, our body really, like, it's really important to hit in those body messages, the somatic markers that we hold. But let's talk about the weight that we carry that's really not ours, right? We often don't see it, but we feel it, right? Some of the things that we're going to be talking about today is just like, I don't know where this came from. I just have this deep feeling, this fear. And that's where we can like pick it apart, right? So generational trauma, it's not this big thing that happens, right? Because it's not an event that happened to us, right? It's not the big obvious kind of trauma that we're used to talking about or used to hearing about or used to researching about, right? Sometimes it's very subtle. It's like these unspoken rules that we've been raised by. They're different inherited beliefs, right? These silent expectations that were passed from one generation to another, all the way down the family line, right? Especially from the women who came before us, also the men that came before us, but really looking at what are those messages that our mothers, our grandmothers, great grandmothers, right, and beyond have told us, right, have shown us. And when I say told, there's the overt and the covert telling, right? The overt is like, we don't have enough money, you have to save because you have to be safe and you have to do this and blah, 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 right? That's the overt. Somebody's directly saying this to you. The covert is like when we scan, when we're taking in all of the information as a kid of just like, how does money impact, right? And money's just on my mind because I just had a conversation with somebody about this. And they're going through my money mindset course. I'm like, of course this is all coming up for you. But when we're looking at this, it's just like, what have we been told about money? How have we experienced money? Did it create a lot of like frustrations and fears in our family? That's the covert. That's the people are acting a certain way and you're picking it up, right? And you're sort of like determining what's safe, what's not safe, right? You're scanning the room basically. So it shows up, all of these different messages show up in how we lead. It shows up in how we speak or maybe how we stay quiet. It shows up in how we show up for others, but not always ourselves, right? Anybody else? Anybody else do that? Put everybody else's, like I can show up like crazy for other people. I remember when but like showing up for myself, I'm like, oh, well, put that on the back burner. That thing that you wanted to do or that walk that you wanted to take, something as simple as a fucking walk, right? That walk that you want to take, you're just going to have to put it on the back burner because you have to do X, Y, and Z for your kid, for your client, for whoever it is, right? So that happens, right? How we show up for others, but not for ourselves. It lives in our nervous systems. This is genetically proven. This is genetically proven, chemically proven that trauma from generations alters our DNA. It alters our patterns, okay? I've researched this. I have dove into it. It's part of my certification program of like, how does this actually work? And it actually creates either more resiliency, less resiliency, right? Like there's a shift that happens. So it lives in our nervous system, it lives in our DNA, and our fear of taking up space, and the internal tug of war that happens between being bold and not rocking the boat, doing what you desire, but not rocking the boat, and not, like not being irrational or irresponsible with things. And oh my gosh, there's so many rules that we live by. Anybody else here a rule breaker? Put a yes in the comments. Like, it's so interesting. Like when we fight against like, nope, I'm not going to follow that. I do not subscribe to that. I am so against society. I will stand up for this and X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. But then like we can stand up again. That's standing up for other things, our values and stuff like that. But then we don't stand up for our beliefs. I'm just like, no, this is bullshit, right? Like breaking that. Let's break the rules on the belief systems that we inherited. How about that? Okay? Who's with me? Put a yes in the comments. Put a fire emoji. Put something. I feel like I'm on fire today, right? I'm very passionate about this. It makes me so mad. So you can tell. Oh my gosh. So this is how generational trauma can look like, right? Especially in us like very like highly driven, like heart-led, women, like we are so heart-led and we are driven and we want to make an impact, right? just like us, this is how it shows up. This is how generational trauma shows up. It shows up in perfectionism, right? The belief that being good enough requires being flawless, right? Just, I have to make sure everything is perfect and everybody sees me this way. It can also show up in over responsibility, carrying on the emotional weight for everybody. Oh my gosh, you guys, I will tell you, like, my mother does this, I'm sure I do to a certain extent. Or maybe I've shifted the other way. Who knows? No. But my mother, she will take on everybody's emotions. She worries about me. She worries about, and again, this is maybe part of motherhood, right? Worries about, all of her kids, but then all of her grandkids, and then all of her brothers and sisters, or she doesn't have any sisters, all of her brothers, sister-in-laws, like everybody she worries about, right? She carries it all. And a bit of martyrdom there. So it comes out in over responsibility. It also comes out in self silencing, not saying what you really think or feel, because it's going to be shut down, or you might be too much, or, right, like you're going to rock the boat. You're going to hurt somebody's ego or feelings or whatever it is, right? So that's self silencing. I always think about this as like self abandonment, right? And there's also the scarcity mindset, believing that there's not enough love, success, support, money, anything to go around. That shows up. That's generational trauma. That is definitely generational trauma. The hyper independence can also be generational trauma. Now, think about this. I want you to think about, as I love the women who came before us and paved the way for us to be like, yes, we can fucking vote. And I mean, that was just like in the 60s and 70s. That's some bullshit, first of all. And I thank them for doing that, for laying the groundwork for us to have a voice, for us to be able to do the things that we do, to work, to have a credit card, to have, even though credit cards, that's a double-edged sword. But like, to be able to do those things, right? They laid the foundation for us. Thank you. And they created this hyper independence where it's like, nope, I'm going to show you that I can work full time and still take care of my family and still take care of my man and still like have dinner on the table and and I'm not going to ask for any help. That's an old way. This is an old way of being, of thinking, of protection. We actually thrive in communities, ladies. I want you to own that. We thrive in communities, okay? Anybody else hyper independence? Put a yes in the comments. I hear. Like, there's no shame in this game. It is just about acknowledgement, right? And then the last one that generational trauma shows up as people pleasing, twisting yourself into all of these different knots, putting yourself into a box for approval that we were taught to chase, right? If I finally have that approval, maybe I'll be enough. I cannot rock the boat, right? I am the people pleaser, right? So, again, there is no shame here. There's only about identifying this, identifying it, calling out, naming it, right? Identifying. So, and we'll go into the 5 steps to transform your trauma into leadership in a minute, and that's part of it, right? So, these patterns, what I want to identify is that, like, these patterns did not start with you. They were passed down. Maybe your mother had to play small to stay safe, right? Maybe your grandmother never had the chance to really speak her truth, right? Now you're here feeling the friction between who you were taught to be and who you are, right? Who you are, who you are here to become, right? There's friction, there's dissonance there. So let me say this to you clearly. I want you to put your hands over your heart, or maybe even just like open your heart, roll your shoulders up and back, open that heart. I want you to receive this. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. It's not your fault that these were passed down to you. It's not your fault that you can continue this pattern. It is, however, your opportunity to change, your opportunity to heal, your opportunity to create a new story. Okay? This is your opportunity to be the disruptive factor, the interruption, right? To heal what's been handed down to you, to lead in a different way, to lead your family in a different way, to lead your life in a different way, to finally put that 50, 100, 200, 300 pound bag, down so that you can just like breathe and rise to where you're meant to be. Okay, so who's with me? Put a heck yes in the comments. Right? So here it is. If you've really been feeling burned out, right? And you're, even when you're doing meaningful work, right? This happens. I talk to a lot of psychotherapists. This happens. Burned out, even when you're doing the work that your heart knows is meant for you. If you're afraid of being fully seen in your truth and your brilliance and speaking from your truth, if you are stuck in imposter syndrome despite all of the success that you have, if you're disconnected from your voice and your vision, right? Like you're constantly managing everyone else's emotions and you're totally ignoring your own. If that resonates with you, that's why you're here. This training is for you. Those are all signs and symptoms that you are carrying the emotional baggage and the old belief systems of your ancestors. Okay? You don't need another productivity hack. You don't need that. You don't need, as much as Atomic Habits has like hit the shelves and it's a great book, you don't need another one of those books. Okay? You need to heal from the inside. You need to heal the root of the issue and reclaim your right to lead with freedom, with clarity, and with soul. Okay? So that's what we're here to do today. All right, so who's excited for it? I wish I could see the comments. I can't. If you're here live, if you're watching the replay, right, you can still engage. I still want to see you dropping in those comments. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about the 5 steps to transform trauma into your leadership, right? Into leadership. We're not staying stuck in the trauma. We're acknowledging it and we're moving. So there's this breakdown. I'm going to give you a breakdown of each of these steps, right? With a little bit of an explanation and being able to reflect in that. Okay, so how does that sound? I like to set it up so where you can truly take this and run with it yourself, right? So the first step of turning your trauma into leadership, into legacy, is awareness. That's what I was talking about, right? Name what's not yours. It is so important to be able to give yourself the space to be like, whose voice is that? Is this mine? What is happening here? What's happening up in here is that it's now getting hot, so I'm going to turn on my AC. Anyway, it's only almost June in Buffalo. It's 50. Anyway, so being able to bring it to awareness and name what's not yours. Before we can lead differently, we really, really have to see clearly. So having the space and the time, and maybe even a coach or a friend or a mentor or something to help you see it, because sometimes it's so embedded that we don't even realize that it's not ours. So many of these beliefs that run our lives, they didn't start with us. They were modeled, they were imprinted, they were whispered in the backgrounds, they were, right? It's just like all of the childhood stuff is coming up. We absorbed all of this, right? These inherited patterns aren't just stories, they have been survival strategies, right? So it's so important to identify them. They have been survival strategies that became our identity, that became our family's identity, that our and we don't, for me, it's like I really have to be aware of how I'm speaking, especially about money, because those are deeply ingrained for all of us, especially women. And I don't want to pass that on to my kids. I think I may have, because my daughter is 18, well, about to be 18 in June, and she has it. I wasn't doing this work when she was little. I was still in my 20s, right? So I know that she picked some shit up. So sad. And there's still an opportunity to change it, right? So these inherited patterns are just like their identities that we embraced. So once we can identify that, we can then choose how we want to run our lives differently. So we learn early what's acceptable for a woman, right? Be nice. Don't speak too loud. Don't want too much. I just wrote an article about all of this. Be strong, but not hard. Be soft, but not weak, right? Stay small, stay quiet, stay safe. Don't take too many risks, right? If you're looking for this dialogue, I mean, it's in the Barbie movie. It's insanity, the amount of pressure and stress that has been placed upon our body, our mind, our souls. Okay. So maybe your mother taught you how to smile through, excuse me, I just spit all over, how to smile through pain, because that's how she coped, is like, just put on a smile, just put on that mask. Maybe your grandmother sacrificed everything for her family and taught you that martyrdom equals love. Oh, if I just sacrifice, I'm showing you my love. Again, I see this. You can think I'm being facetious. I love my grandmother. She taught me that hyper independence, right? She's running a business. She's making sure that she's running home and taking care of all the kids while my grandfather sits on his ass all day long. Okay? So being able to recognize and I'm just watching this, she's running all over the place, running a furniture store, right? Taking care of her parents who live above the furniture store. She lives next to the furniture store, and she's making sure that we have dinner every single night, a hot meal every single friggin' night. What is that? Anyway, so that was, I mean, she always sacrificed. She always did. My mother openly sacrifices, right? But that martyrdom is so toxic, so toxic. So anyways, right? That's something to just be aware of. Normalizing it, right? It's like being able to recognize, like, you learn that being selfless, let's talk about that, being selfless, right? Was noble, that being visible was selfish, celebrating yourself and celebrating your wins is selfish. But just because something was normalized, it doesn't mean that it's natural or that it's aligned for you, okay? So what happens when we recognize these inherited patterns? You start looking at how you start saying, yes, even when your body screams no, right? And these are things that I want you to tap into. Do you say yes when your body's like, no, I don't want to fucking do that. Like, I don't want to do it. When you realize that you shrink your voice in rooms where men speak with certainty and power. Oh my gosh, how many times I've done that. And then it just builds into this like resentment and then like passive aggressiveness, which sucks, right? Because we're really not, I know that's my default, right? That was my mom's, I was taught that, like whatever. But being able to say, like, I'm still not speaking my truth, right? I'm shrinking. Feeling the guilt for wanting more. This is what I wrote my article about last night. Okay. So it's on Medium. If you're part of Medium, I think I posted it to my Instagram and to my Facebook page. It's all about just like feeling guilty for wanting more freedom, more money, more pleasure, more purpose, because we were taught that others always come first. And then that's reinforced when our partners or the people around us are like, when is it going to be enough, yo? Like, what do you mean? So anyway, very passionate about that. Or like catching the thought, like, who am I? Who do I think I am? That I think I can start a business or lead or be a leader or be a leading, expert in something or whatever it is. But it's like, who do I think I am? Where did you learn that? Let's start there. Where the fuck did you learn that? Of like, question, who do you think you are? I'll tell you who I am. That's where I want you to step up and be like, well, let me show you. Right? So this first step is all about becoming conscious. Becoming conscious of those undercurrents of statements, of feelings, of like patterns and behaviors, because you can't shift what you don't see, right? This isn't about blaming. And I want to be very, 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 very clear. This is not about blaming. Blaming is a conditioned thing to keep us safe, right? It's like, they're doing this and they did this and blah, blah, blah. This is about acknowledgement. This is about awareness, right? It's not blaming our mothers, our grandmothers, our lineage. It's about awareness. They did the best they could with what they had. They tried to do something different each generation. I know they did, right? This is about honoring them by evolving the story, by continuing to create a new story, because that's what they did. That's what they were trying to do, okay? So when we are able to do this, right, it's not about shaming. It's not about shaming anybody that came before us. This is about setting them free by choosing differently, okay? How cool is that we get to experience that we get to do this work, right? The moment that you name what's not yours, like it loses its grip on you, truly. Like that's the first part of it is the awareness, the acknowledgement, and the acceptance. And that shifts so much. You open the door to lead from a place that's truly yours, not from a place, sorry, distraction. Things are kicking up out there. I'm like, what was that? So asking yourself, like, what belief about yourself or your leadership did you inherit that you never really questioned before, right? So that we can open the door to what's truly ours. And we can lead from that. Oh my goodness, time flies by. Step two. All right, so now that we've acknowledged it, it's time to release. It's time to let go of the armor that we have put around us, that we have geared up for. When I think about like the physical weight of my mother and my grandmother and my great grandmother, she was a heavy woman, nice heavy Polish woman, right? That's like hundreds and hundreds of pounds. You wonder why we have hip problems, knee problems, and shoulder problems? There we go. So once we name it, our next step is releasing. This isn't just in the mind, it's in the body, right? Because even when we know a belief is not ours, right? Even when we want to lead differently, our body, if we're not connecting this with this, our body is going to hold on to it, right? It's going to hold on in ways of like tension or tightness or anxiety or even numbness. Our body holds on to old trauma responses. So it's not just emotional, it's physiological, right? And that's where I told you about the Body Keeps a Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Powerful book. It's sort of, you know, I thought it was like a dry read, but like really, really good information. It was really informative. It was really good in that way. It wasn't meant for like my you know, guilty pleasures. So being able to recognize that it's not just emotional, it's physiological. Stored trauma lives in our nervous system, right? In the shoulders that we keep raised. Ladies, check it out. I did not even realize. So with the like progressive muscle relaxation, full body scans and stuff like that, I started teaching mindfulness probably about 12 years ago. I started practicing it 15 years ago, mindfulness and meditation. And when I did, like, I realized, like, after doing some of the like body scans and the progressive muscle relaxation, I realized when I was driving, I was always like this. My shoulders are always up just a little bit. I'm exaggerating it for you to see, but they were just up just a tad. And I'm like, huh, holy cow, what a difference, right? So it's in the shoulders that we keep raised. It's in the breath that we hold, right? It's in the stomach that tenses every time that we speak our truth. Our bodies are brilliant. They're magnificent. They adapt to keep us safe. But once the protection is not needed, it still holds on, right? So it's our job to utilize different somatic practices and emotional releases in order to embrace this feminine embodied leadership, okay? Because we can't think our way into safety. We have to feel our way into it, okay? So I just want to take a moment here to check in with your body. Notice if there's any tension. We don't do this enough. Check in. Are you holding your breath? Are you just breathing into your chest? Notice where you're holding some tension. And now just take a nice deep breath in, all the way into your belly. When you exhale, I want you to exhale with a sigh. Feel the difference, right? We can inhale and exhale through our nose, but when we exhale through our mouth and pair it with a sigh, that hits another level. Slow down the exhale, right? So that is just, again, that took maybe 30 seconds. That's it. The third step, right? The third step in transforming our generational trauma. I was like, what are we? Our generational trauma into legacy and leadership. Okay. So we already went through the first two, the awareness and the release. The third step is about reclaiming. This is a reclamation. This is a return to your inner wisdom. This is a reconnection with your intuition, with your voice, with your power. And just being able to recognize that, like, this is something that's so powerful. And I want you to embrace wholeheartedly and to really understand this is that, like, we are the first women. You are the first woman in your lineage with the privilege to lead from healing rather than survival. You are the first woman in your lineage to have the choice, to have the privilege to lead from healing rather than survival. I know we can get into the why the fuck is it my job to heal. It's not. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to heal. I know I was bitter about that. I'm like, why am I having to do all this fucking work? Right? Well, because I was gifted this opportunity, and we all are. So here's the thing, when we are about reclaiming this return to your inner wisdom, and I had this question. It's like, especially when we have our own personal trauma and then we're carrying generational trauma, like, what if you can't decipher your intuition from your trauma response, right? First, I want to identify that, like, you're not broken if this feels confusing. I want you to hear that. I see you. I feel you. You're not broken if this feels confusing. If you're completely confused of, like, I don't know, can I trust myself? What is that? Is that a trauma response? Is that my intuition? Like, what is this? When we've experienced trauma, especially relational or generational trauma, our nervous system, like, again, saying it gets wired to seek safety above all else. And sometimes what feels safe is actually just what feels familiar, even if it's limiting and painful. Okay? So what many of us interpret as intuition, I just have a bad feeling about that, right, could actually be a protective pattern trying to keep us from exposure, risk, vulnerability, and not really true soul-led guidance. So here's a little tip on how to begin telling the difference, right? Intuition is typically calm, right? It's just this, like, deep knowing, like, turn here. You want to, like, connect with this person, like that, like those things, right? It's like calm. Trauma's urgent, right? It's like, oh my gosh, we can't do that, and blah, blah, like it speaks loudly. It's like, no, nope, can't do that, can't go there, nope, that's danger, right? So intuition is like a whisper usually. Sometimes if you've ignored it for long enough, it could, like, hit you on the side of the head and be like, get the fuck, dude, I'm right here, right? But typically it's this, like, whisper. It's grounded, it's steady, it's clear. Even when the message is bold, it's not screaming at you. It's calm. It's like this calm confidence, this grounded radiance, right? Trauma speaks loudly. It feels anxious, it feels rushed, or like that you must act now or shut down immediately, right? So that's the first tip, right? Intuition expands. It might feel scary, but you will still have a sense of openness and possibilities, right? Trauma contracts. Trauma responses often feel like a shutdown, a constriction, an inner, like, slam the door and run, right? So that's another way to tell between the two. And then we also look at, like, intuition as a guide. Intuition invites you forward. It guides you forward. It inspires you forward. Trauma protects. Trauma builds walls to help you keep, like, hidden and protected, right? So just being able to understand and just checking in with yourself right now. Do you feel open? Do you feel closed? It's okay. There's no right or wrong right here. It's just about awareness and sort of playing around with this concept in really, really gentle ways, right? Like, I've even had women start with just, like, when you're just driving down the road and, like, maybe you get this, like, this happened to me many times, and this has happened to other women, and this is where they started playing with it, where it's just like, turn down this road, see where it leads you. Like, let's start there, okay? Like, you might end up in a very, like, amazing place on this great journey, which has been my experience and the experience of other women. So that's a safer one. All right, so the fourth step, as I see us ran out of time, The fourth step is about rewriting. It's about creating a new story, okay? When we are rewriting and creating a new story, we are shifting limiting beliefs into soul aligned truth. So often the beliefs that shape our leadership really didn't come from your soul. I think about my earlier days in leadership. I was so conditioned about what was expected of me, how other people, like, again, I was just learning it. So I wasn't sure of myself, even though I remember so many times, and I started to, and this is why I like ultimately ended up getting out of corporations, of organizations, and starting my own thing, is because like there were things that were happening that I was not okay with. My soul was like, you're not meant to be here, right? I had very different views of what like our healthcare system could look like. And I remember being told like that's the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard, or getting pushed back in some way, right? And I knew, I'm like, this is not for me. But you know what? It was told that I had to, like, this is the only way to do it. This is the only way up, right? Or being told, you don't tell people when you're wrong. You do not tell our clients when we have done something wrong. I'm like, that, we're asking them to be radically honest, like, but we're not going to be honest. Like, that does not settle with me, right? So it's like all of these different ways that it's just like, you know, I was trying to lead from the right way that other people were telling, when my soul was like, no, this isn't right. So from what we were told a good woman does or a good leader does, from systems built on control and compliance and survival, we're not doing that anymore, okay? Put a I ain't doing that, or I'm stopping, or a big stop sign, or whatever in the comments, because like we're not doing that anymore. This is from generational pain that has been like passed off as personality, right? Like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like, fuck you. So here's the truth, is that what you believe creates what you lead. What you believe creates what you lead. If you believe that your voice is too much, you'll silence yourself. If you believe leadership requires burnout, you're going to override your body. If you believe that your worth is tied to how much you give, you'll abandon yourself in the name of being nice, over and over and over and over. These are limiting beliefs, and they didn't start with you. And you have the power to rewrite them, okay? So just start looking at some of the different statements, the stories, right? I have to do it all alone. Where did it come from, right? Identify a belief about your worth, your power, your leadership that feels heavy or limiting, or like, no, this isn't right. And allow yourself the space to question where this came from, right? The fifth step, the final step, right, and being able to transform generational trauma into your legacy and leadership, right, is to rise. We rise. Oh, there's a butterfly. Sorry. Really big one. I'm gonna have to look that up later. I'll let you know what it means. So rising, you want to lead with that legacy in mind, right? It's about healing. It's the healed leadership that becomes the ancestral healing for past generations and future generations. So we are leading with legacy in mind. We are thinking about what story do I want to leave behind? What is the path that I want to pave? What do I want my kids or my nieces and nephews or the kids of the world to believe, right? And here's the thing, is that when we do this healing, like I said, it goes back generations and forward generations, right? And for me, how do you want to lead? I want you to put it in the comments. How do you want to lead? What are your values? What do you want to leave behind? Because for me, it has always been about compassion, first and foremost, right? Compassion with myself, compassion in the world, compassion for each other. Being able to, even within division, I see it. We're divided, and I can see everybody as a human being, right? It doesn't mean I have to agree with them or anything. It just sees that I see them with a compassionate heart. That's such a huge value of mine. Wholeness, right? Not this fractured parts of like all of these different lies that we've been told, but becoming whole and accepting all parts of us, and authenticity, right? This is where my leadership, leading with compassion, wholeness, authenticity, not performance, not these old paradigms, right? Not these old belief systems. So what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind starting today? Right? Put it in the comments, right? So here's the thing, ladies, is that you are the turning point in your lineage. You are the pivot. You are that opportunity. And just take one bold step, right? Today, starting with like maybe it's journaling, maybe it's sharing your story, maybe it's joining me at a retreat, maybe it's being here. Put it in the comments. What is the bold step that you're willing to take today? Showing up, speaking to somebody about your business, speaking your truth. Like, what is that? Put it in the comments. We want to cheer you on because that is so important. It is so important to celebrate that. So, I hope to see you again. We have a lot of great offers. A couple of the next ones are actually, we're going to have a 90-minute workshop coming up in June. That's all for feminine entrepreneurs and shifting our energy. So somatic work is coming up for the month of June. And then in July and August, we have some really, really cool in-person retreats happening. They are are both of them in New York? Why do I feel, oh no, one's in Georgia. One's in Georgia, so hit me up if you're some of my Georgia peeps. It's a 1-day event. It's the Radiant Heart Day Retreat. And then we have the Full Moon Goddess in August that is being held by Kelpie Town Cove. I'm going to be there co-hosting with her. So please, please, please keep your eyes open for all sorts of opportunities. And like I said, we have the virtual master classes happening in June. So we'll have that up and running and ready for you guys to register. So sending so much light and love, and I will see you next Thursday for our free training. Mwah!